Paula is my name, and I've always prioritized family. I established a respectable life for myself at the age of 33, with a great apartment in the city, a senior marketing director position at a software firm, and enough money to support the people I care about. I won't lie and claim to be a genius, but I put in a lot of effort to get this point. My younger sister Lily and I grew up in a modest 3-bedroom suburban home with our parents. Mom was a dentist office receptionist, and Dad was an electrician. Despite their lack of wealth, they made sure we had all we needed. Lily was always the extroverted, funnier, and prettier social butterfly. I was the quiet one, the bookworm who spent weekends studying while Lily went to parties. Typical sibling dynamic, I guess. When Lily met Jake 5 years ago, it was love at first sight. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony that I helped pay for. Jake works in sales, but seems to bounce between jobs every few months. They're always short on cash, but they never miss a chance to post vacation photos on social media. As for me, I'm single. Dating isn't really my priority right now. Work takes up most of my time, and honestly, I'm okay with that. My job pays well, which means I can help out my family when they need it. And they always seem to need it. 3 years ago, when my parents were struggling with their mortgage payments, I stepped in. "It's just temporary," Dad had said, embarrassed. "Just until we get back on our feet." I didn't mind. I could afford it. And they were my parents. What was I supposed to do? Let the bank take their house? Then Lily and Jake couldn't make rent on their apartment. Just for a few months, Lily had promised, her eyes wide and pleading. Those few months turned into years. But I never complained. There were always other requests too: a new refrigerator when theirs broke down, emergency car repairs, tickets to a concert Lily really wanted to see. I never said no. Today was Mom's 60th birthday, and I wanted to make it special. I booked a private room at Bellini's, her favorite Italian restaurant, and invited all her friends and relatives. The bill for the dinner would be hefty, but that wasn't all. I'd also planned a surprise gift, a 10-day trip to Mexico for her and Dad. All expenses paid, from flights to hotel to tours. They'd never been out of the country before, and I thought it would be something they'd remember forever. I was at my apartment, wrapping the gift certificate in fancy paper, when my phone pinged with an email notification. Unknown sender. Subject line: family dinner. Watch this. Probably spam, I muttered, about to delete it, but something stopped me. Maybe it was Lily being goofy, putting together a video montage of family moments for Mom's birthday. That would be just like her, stealing my thunder with something heartfelt and creative, while I stuck to practical gifts. I clicked on the email. The message was brief. "You should watch this video from your family's dinner last weekend." There was a video attachment. I hesitated for a second, running a quick mental virus scan, but curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked play. The video showed my parents' dining room. The image was a bit shaky, but clear enough, someone filming from what looked like the corner of the room. Mom, Dad, Lily, Jake, and a few other relatives were seated around the table. Wine glasses reflected the overhead light, and everyone was laughing about something. Then I heard my name. "Paula's coming to the birthday dinner, right?" That was Uncle Rob. Mom rolled her eyes. "Of course she is. She's paying for it." They all laughed. I felt a small knot form in my stomach, but I kept watching. "I don't know how you deal with her," Jake said, refilling his wine glass. "She's so boring." "Tell me about it," Mom replied. And I felt like I'd been slapped. Every conversation turns into a lecture about saving money or career advancement. No boyfriend, no hobbies, just work, work, work. "And yet, she's got that big promotion," Lily chimed in, shaking her head. "I still don't get how." "She's not exactly Miss Personality." Jake snorted. "Maybe she got it through the bedroom, if you know what I mean." They all burst out laughing. Dad included. My own father. I felt bile rise in my throat. My fingers were trembling so badly I almost dropped my phone. "The worst part is," Mom continued, swirling her wine, We have to pretend to be impressed by everything she does. Oh, Paula got another raise. Oh, Paula bought a new car. Like any of us care. But we need her money. Dad said, his voice lower but still audible. What if she decided to stop helping? Where would we be then? Stuck with this mortgage, that's where. Mom replied, and Lily and Jake would be out on the street. It's like paying a tax, Lily said with a dramatic sigh. We smile and nod at her boring stories, and in return she covers our bills. Have you seen her apartment? Mom continued. All that money, and it looks like a furniture showroom. No personality, just like her. I stopped the video, unable to watch anymore. My hands were shaking and tears burned behind my eyes. Every word had cut like a knife. The gift box with the Mexico trip sat in front of me, looking suddenly pathetic. I'd spent weeks planning this surprise, excited to see Mom's face when she opened it, and all this time. My phone beeped with a calendar reminder, Mom's birthday dinner. For hours, I stared at it, feeling hollow inside. My first instinct was to cancel, to crawl into bed, and never face any of them again. But as the initial shock began to fade, something else took its place. Anger. White-hot, clarifying anger. They wanted my money, but not me. Fine. I'd give them exactly what they wanted. One last show of my generosity, and then nothing. Ever again. I spent the next hour replaying fragments of the video in my head while I gathered evidence of my family's financial dependence on me. My banking app showed a clear pattern: monthly transfers for my parents' mortgage, regular payments for Lily and Jake's rent, plus dozens of emergency cash transfers whenever they claimed to be in a bind. Over the past 2 years alone, I'd spent over $78,000 on my family. Seeing the number in black and white made me feel physically ill, not because of the money itself. I'd given it willingly, but because of what it represented. Years of manipulation. I printed out every transaction, organizing them by recipient and date. Then I took the Mexico trip itinerary and drew a thick red line through it, writing "canceled" across the page in bold letters. I placed everything in the gift box I'd originally prepared for Mom's birthday present, wrapping it with the same fancy paper. It looked identical to the gift I'd planned to give her just hours ago, but its contents were very different. The video had been sent anonymously, and I couldn't figure out who might have recorded it. The angle suggested it was someone sitting at the table. But who would betray my family's trust like that, and why send it to me now, just hours before Mom's birthday celebration? Either way, I was grateful for the truth, however painful. I downloaded the video to my phone to ensure I'd have it ready at the restaurant. My hands had stopped shaking by now, replaced by a cold, steady resolve. I checked my appearance in the bathroom mirror. I looked the same as always, perhaps a bit paler. No external sign of the earthquake that had just leveled my world. The drive to Bellini's took 20 minutes. The restaurant's private dining room was already bustling when I arrived. Mom sat at the head of the table wearing the blue dress I bought her last Christmas. Dad was next to her, his arm around her shoulders. Lily and Jake stood nearby, champagne glasses in hand, laughing with some relatives. The scene looked so perfectly normal, so loving. Mom spotted me, and her face lit up with a smile that I now recognized as completely fake. She hurried over and wrapped me in a hug. "Paula, you're finally here." I was beginning to worry. I returned her hug mechanically. "Happy birthday, Mom." I moved to the table and took my seat, placing the gift box carefully beside me. It would wait until the right moment. The waiter brought out appetizers, and conversations flowed around me. I barely participated, offering only minimal responses when directly addressed. No one seemed to notice anything amiss, or if they did, they attributed it to my usual boring personality. Mom clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Before we really get started, I just want to thank my wonderful daughter Paula for arranging this beautiful dinner. She's always so generous." The gathered family members turned to smile at me. I saw it now, the calculation behind their eyes, the thin veneer of appreciation that had nothing to do with me as a person and everything to do with what I provided. The appetizers gave way to entree, then to dessert. Throughout it all, I remained quiet, watching, observing their interactions with new clarity. When Dad casually mentioned a kitchen renovation they were considering, I caught the quick glance he exchanged with Mom. Another project they expected me to fund. When the time came for gifts, relatives presented Mom with the usual: scented candles, jewelry, bottles of wine. She accepted each with practiced delight. Finally, it was my turn. "Before I give my gift," I said, standing up, "I'd like to share something with everyone." The room quieted. I took out my phone and connected it to the small projector I'd asked the restaurant to provide, claiming I wanted to show family photos. "I received an interesting video today," I continued, my voice surprisingly steady. "I think you'll all find it enlightening." I pressed play. The familiar scene appeared on the wall, my family around the dinner table, wine glasses in hand. I watched their faces change from confusion to shock to horror as their own voices filled the room, exposing their true feelings about me. Mom's face drained of color. Dad stared at the floor. Lily's mouth hung open in disbelief. The other relatives shifted uncomfortably, some averting their eyes from the screen, others unable to look away from the unfolding disaster. When I finally stopped the video, the silence in the room was absolute. Mom broke first. "Paula, sweetheart, you've misunderstood everything. We were just joking around. It's obviously been manipulated." Lily added quickly, "Someone used one of those AI programs to fake our voices." "That's right," Jake nodded vigorously. "This is clearly a fake." The other relatives murmured in agreement, eager to defuse the situation. Everyone wanted to believe it wasn't real, that a family couldn't possibly be so two-faced. Then a voice spoke from the back of the room. "It's not fake." Everyone turned to look at Aunt Claire, Mom's sister. She stood up, shoulders squared. "I recorded that video last weekend," she stated flatly. "Every word is real." Mom's shock morphed into rage. "You did this? How dare you?" "I've listened to you talk about Paula like that for years," Aunt Claire replied. I couldn't stand it anymore. She reached into her purse and pulled out several sheets of paper. "And here are printouts from your private family chat group. The one Paula doesn't know about." She handed the papers around the table. I took one, my hands numb. It was a screenshot of a messaging app with my family's names clearly visible. "Mom just called. She's paying for the restaurant for my birthday. We should ask her about a new washing machine next week." "Lily, good idea. Jake needs new tires too." "Dad, don't push too hard too fast. Let her think it was her idea." "Jake, just bore her with praise about her promotion. Works every time, LOL." I looked up from the paper to see Mom's face, contorted with fury. "This is a violation of privacy," she shouted at Aunt Claire. "You had no right to share our private conversations. I could sue you for this." "I haven't even given you my gift yet, Mom," I said, my voice cutting through her tirade. I pushed the wrapped box toward her. "Open it." With trembling hands, she tore off the paper and lifted the lid. Her eyes widened as she saw the canceled Mexico trip and the stack of financial records. $78,436, I announced to the room. "That's how much I've spent on my family in the last 2 years alone. And this is how they repay me." I stood up, gathering my purse. "From now on, you're on your own. And Mom, if you sue Aunt Claire, I'll hire the best lawyer in the state to defend her." The room erupted into chaos. Mom burst into tears. Dad tried to calm her. Lily screamed that I was being selfish and cruel. Some relatives looked ashamed. Others seemed almost pleased by the drama. I drove home in a blur, barely conscious of the traffic lights or other cars. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, texts, calls, voicemails, all from my family. I ignored them all. Once home, I locked the door behind me and collapsed onto the couch. The numbness was wearing off, giving way to a flood of emotions: betrayal, hurt, anger, shame. Had I been so desperate for family connection that I'd willingly blinded myself to their manipulation? How had I not seen it before? I dragged myself to the bathroom and turned the shower on as hot as I could stand it. As the steam filled the room, I stepped under the water, hoping it would wash away the memory of their faces, their voices, their laughter at my expense. It didn't. By the time I got out, my phone screen showed 37 missed calls and twice as many text messages. I scrolled through them briefly. Mom, please call me. This is all a misunderstanding. Dad, you're overreacting. We need to talk this through. Lily, how could you humiliate us like that? You're the selfish one. Jake, your sister is crying because of you. Hope you're happy. The messages became increasingly desperate as the night went on. Mom, we never meant to hurt you. Please answer. Dad, the mortgage payment is due next week. We need to discuss this. Lily, you know we can't afford rent without you. Don't be vindictive. I'd never ignored their calls before. I'd always been available, ready to help, eager to please. No more. I opened my banking app and canceled all recurring transfers to my parents and sister. Then I blocked their numbers on my phone. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe freely. My apartment, which Mom had criticized as having no personality, suddenly seemed like a sanctuary. Every piece of furniture, every decoration reflected my choices, not someone else's expectations. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter, despite having barely slept. I went to work, threw myself into projects, and somehow made it through the day without checking my phone once. 2 days passed this way. I kept busy, avoided social media, and tried not to think about what my family might be doing or saying without my financial support. On the 3rd day, I received a call from Aunt Claire. Paula, can we meet somewhere to talk? We agreed on a small cafe halfway between our homes. When I arrived, she was already there, nursing a cup of tea. She looked tired, but managed to smile when she saw me. I slid into the seat across from her. Why did you do it? I asked without preamble. Aunt Claire sighed. I've watched them take advantage of you for years. Every family gathering, every holiday, they'd act like they adored you when you were around. Then the moment you left, the masks would come off. She stirred her tea absently. I wanted to say something so many times, but you seemed happy. You believed in this idea of your family that wasn't real, and I wasn't sure if it was my place to shatter that illusion. I stared down at the table. So what changed? That dinner last weekend was the final straw. The things they said about you, I couldn't stand it anymore. I recorded it on impulse, not sure what I'd do with it. Then I heard about your big gift for Diane's birthday, and I knew I had to show you the truth before you spent even more on people who didn't appreciate you. We talked for over an hour. She filled me in on family dynamics I'd never noticed, how my parents had gradually increased their financial demands over the years, how Lily had learned to manipulate me by playing on my desire for closeness with my only sibling. Patterns I'd been blind to suddenly became obvious in retrospect. Before we parted, I hugged Aunt Claire tightly. Thank you, I whispered, for telling me the truth when no one else would. Days turned into weeks, then months. My life settled into a new rhythm: work, friends, occasional dates, hobbies I'd neglected for too long. I'd never realized how much mental space my family had occupied until they weren't in it anymore. Through the grapevine of extended family, I heard bits and pieces about them. Mom and Dad were struggling with the mortgage. They'd missed 2 payments, and the bank was sending warnings. Lily and Jake had been forced to move to a smaller apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. I felt a twinge of guilt, quickly followed by resolve. They were adults. They'd figure it out. Some relatives took my family's side, calling me heartless for cutting them off. Others understood my position, especially those who'd witnessed the birthday dinner revelation. I maintained relationships with the latter group, including Aunt Claire, who became something of a surrogate mother figure to me. 6 months after the confrontation, I was leaving my office building when I spotted a familiar figure waiting by the entrance, Lily. Looking thinner than I remembered, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. My first instinct was to turn around and find another exit, but she'd already seen me. I steeled myself and continued walking, my face carefully blank. "Paula," she called out as I approached. "Please, just give me 5 minutes." I stopped a few feet away from her. "What do you want, Lily?" She twisted her hands nervously. "I came to apologize for everything. We were wrong to treat you that way." I said nothing, just waited. There would be more. There always was with Lily. "Mom and Dad are really struggling with the mortgage," she continued, her voice growing desperate, "and I'm pregnant." For months along, Jake and I had to move to a cheaper apartment because we couldn't afford our place anymore. I'd suspected her apology wasn't genuine. Now I knew for certain. "Congratulations on the baby," I said flatly. "Is that all?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, Paula. We need your help. Just until the baby comes. Until we get back on our feet. We've learned our lesson. I swear." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the tears and the pregnancy, I could still see the calculation in her eyes. The same look she'd had when asking for money before. Nothing had changed except their circumstances. "No," I said simply. Her face hardened instantly. "You heartless bastard. Your own family is suffering and you don't even care." I walked past her toward my car, her shouted obscenities following me across the parking lot. Once inside, I took a deep breath and started the engine. I felt nothing for the sister I'd once loved so dearly. No anger. No pity. Not even sadness. Just emptiness. A year and a half passed since that confrontation with Lily outside my office. Life moved on, as it always does. I received a promotion at work, took up hiking on weekends, and even started dating someone, a quiet, thoughtful man named David who valued honesty above all else. Through my occasional contact with Aunt Claire and the handful of relatives I still kept in touch with, I heard fragments about my former family. Mom and Dad were consistently behind on mortgage payments, living under the constant threat of foreclosure, but somehow always scraping by at the last minute. Lily had given birth to a boy and moved back in with our parents to save money. Jake was working 2 jobs, but still complaining about never having enough. They'd all adapted to life without my financial support, though not gracefully. Sometimes, usually late at night, I'd wonder if I'd made the right choice. Cutting them off completely had been harsh, perhaps unnecessarily so. Then I'd remember the video. Their laughing faces, their mocking words, and the doubt would vanish. They'd never loved me. They'd loved what I could provide. There's a world of difference. Last Christmas, I received holiday cards from both Mom and Lily. Mom's was formal, almost businesslike, with no personal message beyond the pre-printed greeting. Lily's included a photo of her son, my nephew, and a brief note saying she hoped we could someday reconcile for his sake. Neither mentioned money directly, but the implication hung between the lines. I sent no cards in return. During a spring dinner with Aunt Claire, she mentioned that Mom had reached out to her, seeking reconciliation. She claims she's realized her mistakes, Aunt Claire said, skepticism evident in her voice. Says she misses having you in her life. I raised an eyebrow. Did she happen to mention this before or after asking if you knew about my financial situation? Aunt Claire smiled wryly. After, of course. Some things never change. In the months that followed, there were more attempts. Emails from Dad explaining how they'd misunderstood each other. A letter from Lily detailing the hardships of raising a child without adequate resources. Each message carefully crafted to invoke guilt without explicitly asking for money. I deleted the emails and threw away the letters without responding. One Sunday morning, I was shopping at the farmer's market when I literally bumped carts with Lily. She looked older, more worn down, with dark circles under her eyes. The baby, now a toddler, sat in the cart playing with a toy. For a moment, we just stared at each other, both too surprised to speak. Her son looked up at me with curious eyes, eyes that reminded me of my own in childhood photos. A small part of me ached at the realization that I didn't know his name, that I probably never would. Lily recovered first. She straightened her shoulders and nodded stiffly. Paula. Lily, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. The child babbled something, reaching toward a display of apples. Lily absently handed him one, her eyes never leaving my face. I expected more manipulative pleas, maybe tears or accusations. Instead, she simply said, "We're doing okay, you know, without your money." "I'm glad to hear that," I answered, and was surprised to find I meant it. She hesitated, then pushed her cart past mine. "Goodbye, Paula." "Goodbye," I echoed, watching them disappear around the corner. That brief encounter affected me more than I expected. Not because I missed them or regretted my decision, but because I realized how completely my life had moved on without them. They were strangers now. People I'd once known but no longer needed. The last update I heard came from Cousin Mark at Aunt Claire's birthday dinner last month. Apparently, Dad had found better paying work and they'd managed to refinance the mortgage. Lily was taking online classes while raising her son, hoping to finally earn a degree. They were struggling but surviving, just like millions of other families who didn't have a relative to bankroll their lives. Sometimes people ask if I miss having a family. The question always strikes me as odd. I do have a family. It's just smaller now and built on genuine connections rather than obligation or financial dependence. Aunt Claire, my handful of supportive relatives, my close friends, David, they're my family now. The people who see me for who I am, not what I can give them. As for Mom, Dad, and Lily, I don't hate them anymore. I don't feel much of anything toward them, to be honest. They shaped my early life, for better and worse, but they're not part of my story now. And I'm perfectly okay with that. I still have the video Aunt Claire sent me. I've never watched it again, but I keep it as a reminder not of their betrayal, but of my own worth. Of the lesson I learned that day. I completed the arrangements for a vacation to Mexico last week, the same place I had originally intended to send my parents. But David and two of our best friends are joining me this time. I had no regrets when I made the reservation. No regrets about what may have been. Just eagerness for the journey that lies ahead. I can tell I've really moved on when I do that. What I lost or left behind doesn't define my existence. It's based on what I've discovered and selected. Individuals who appreciate me for who I am, not what I can do for them.